I love tools. I love expensive tools, I love cheap tools, and what I really love are the tools that are perfectly suited to the job. So to illustrate that, I was thinking about what are the least expensive tools that I own that I enjoy using the most, that give me a little warm glow right in my chest every time I pick it up and do some work. And here they are. They don't cost much, and I'm going to lead out with iron worker pliers, wire tying pliers. Now, I had been a carpenter 8 years, and all I knew was these are pliers, slip joint pliers. You can cut a piece of wire, you can almost get a hold of a small nut, and you can carry them in your bags if you want. And then in Las Vegas, I'd been down there about 2 months working commercial construction when I saw the iron workers show up with these beautiful things. Now, these are channel lock and not Klein, and I understand some guys, it's a hill to die on for some with Klein, some with channel lock. But the big thing is that iron worker pliers are perfectly suited for everything a carpenter runs into, or for that matter, that an iron worker runs into when you're tying rebar and a multitude of other things. I feel satisfaction at the life, at the function, at the fit, and they cost now, in today's inflated world, about $35 to $45, and Klein and channel lock compete, but I like it. Now, this is about the most expensive tool on the table, maybe. Let me go to the other end of the spectrum. A margin trowel is something that every good concrete finisher, and even a half-baked concrete finisher like me, ought to have in his hip pocket. They drop right into your pocket, the handle sticks out, and it makes a bracket for holding other tools. It makes a little hook. But mostly, it'll clean the edge of your forms so you can do good work with a float or a trowel. And it's a decent putty knife, and it will clean up the tools. It'll scrape out the inside of the wheelbarrow. It will scrape paint. The blade is lively. Okay, there is life to that carbon steel tempered blade, and these things you can get for like $3 or $4. So if you get 2 or 3 of these things, you've always got one close to hand. Put one in the house so your wife can use it for scraping paint. Heck, she can probably get the scrambled eggs out of the pan with one of these things. I mean, they're an awesome tool, but be aware, if the only one you have is in your concrete bucket, someday on the job, you're going to go to the bucket and it's not going to be there because somebody back at the house needed this for something that was very important and forgot to put it back. Margin trowels are awesome. Okay, so the next one right here is so simple. It's a Stanley 199A classic utility knife. Now let me just tell you, I bet I've lost 100 utility knives in the last 46 or 47 years. I sow them like grass seed, right? And I've had every iteration. When you walk into a box store and they got 15 or 20 different utility knives, you go, oh, I guess I need the latest, greatest. Well, what I've decided after all this time is I don't need the latest, greatest. I don't need it with the ergonomic bend. I don't need the fast access into the handle. I don't need the multi-click. All I need is the slim profile, drop right into my pouch, forget it. And if I don't have it anymore, I just go buy another one. It's simpler. One of the rules of marketing tools is you try to develop an upgrade that will get people to buy your newest and your most, where the profit margin's fatter, right? But we can resist that. If something works, there's no need to fix it. This is a utility knife that works. And of all the tools I have, this is one of a fairly small number that's left a scar on my body. I've got a nice little scar right there in the middle of my wrist. I was in Las Vegas remodeling a Toys R Us store, I think, and Eric, I don't remember Eric's last name, he was a superintendent, and I was cutting some drywall and making the cardinal mistake of cutting towards my body, and it was a nice sharp knife, and when it came out of the paper, it kept going right into the old wrist, and somehow I didn't get an artery, I didn't get a vein, I didn't get a tendon, but one of the reasons I love these little utility knives so much is the proof I have that they will bite you. All right, I've got 3 of these things left, I think, and before I take another breath, I want to make sure you know that I'm looking for your criticism here. If you have found a knife, if you have found a margin trowel, if you have found anything that we're talking about here that is better, hopefully for less money or the same, or better value, how about that? That the dollars you spend last longer and provide more satisfaction and produce more work. Please put it in the comments. Please put it in the comments. But pushing forward, I didn't even mention that these ironworker pliers Sometimes lineman pliers are mistaken for ironworker pliers. They are different pliers for different jobs. Pressing forward, let me jump to the heavier one, the bigger one. A D-handled square point transfer shovel, or as they say in the comments from Great Britain, a shovel. This thing is 30 to 50 bucks, and I just like it. It fits in your hand. You can work up close and personal. You can work heavy. You can throw material. But what I really like about this is how much control you have for shaking the material out of the shovel onto your work. Now, we don't care about that if we're just digging, but we sure care about that if we're seeding some concrete along the edges of a patio or a driveway or a parking lot because the edge is low. You don't just drop a shovel full of concrete, you seed it. You can shake it out of a D-handled shovel, and I expect that when they bury me, somebody would be able to do it with this shovel because that handle ain't gonna break. One more thing, value, right? Part of determining value, how much you spend and how much you get, is a realistic assessment of how hard are you gonna use it. So if you're a pro and it's gonna be thrashed and it's gonna be left laying in the dirt and somebody's gonna step on it, you might want a fiberglass or a steel handle. If it's at home or in the garden, you can save money. You can save money with an inexpensive wooden-handled shovel. And so if you shop, you can find, like everything else, you can find a shovel like this for 20 bucks and you can find one like this for 80 bucks, and all they're gonna do is dig the dirt. So just determine what the cost point is for the abuse and the use that you're gonna expect from the tool in order to really make it a value purchase. So a plumb bob. The plumb bob is one of the most ancient tools. I mean, a rock on a string is a plumb bob. The reason people don't often use or have plumb bobs is because they're confused about how to manage the string. But let's just say that you're gonna build, I don't know, you're gonna build a patio cover. You've mustered up your courage, you think you can do it yourself, you think you can save the money, but you don't have an 8-foot level and you wanna make it plumb and the walls are 10 feet high, or I don't know, whatever they are. Let's say that you're building a tree house and you want the exit out of the tree house that you're building to be directly above an anchor point down on the ground so you can tie the rope down so your kids can climb up and down the rope or the pole. I don't know, fill in the blank. But you may feel a little inadequate if your level's only this long and you've got to plumb something 10 or 12 feet tall. This is where a plumb bob becomes brilliant. So if you get a chance, keep an eye out for a gammon reel. Buy a plumb bob, whether it's an expensive brass one or a cheap one that you find on a table somewhere at a garage sale. You can get them for pennies. Put them together, and if it's not long enough to reach to the treehouse, the gammon reel enables you to tie a loop onto that boss and extend with a string. If it was good enough for the Egyptians, for crying out loud, if the glorious cathedrals in Europe were built with plumb bobs to establish plumb and not lasers, buddy, it's good enough for any of us. And besides that, it looks good and it feels good, which is one reason that I often reach for a plumb bob when another tool might be good enough. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing it at home or on the job, you got to make marks. You got to make marks that you can see, which means you've got to be able to find and reach a pencil, or if you're doing layout, or if you're marking logs in the woods, you got to have a marking crayon, keel as it's called, and you get lost, they drop out of your pocket, unless you've got some way to hang on to them if it works. Now, I don't need this because I wear, my bags, have pouches for pockets. But maybe you don't wear bags, and so maybe you just need a pencil or attach this to your chop saw. And don't just buy one pencil or two or three, buy a lot and have them close to hand. That's a thought. But of the two, this is kind of light duty and it's quiet and it's user-friendly. But this is the one I like, because for years I used it like this. He said, cutting trees, boom, or on the right, so it falls into your right hand. It's out of the way and it comes back, and that's pretty nice, but there's just something about having your marker out of the way and indelible and strong, and it makes me smile. This costs almost nothing. This costs a little more, but they both provide the satisfaction of the right tool for the right job at the right moment. Last item, related to buying a box of pencils, buy a box of safety glasses. They cost almost nothing. I mean, relatively speaking, they're inexpensive now. And all the times that you don't put them on because you don't want to stop and find them, go away, because there's always one close to hand. I trust these. If you don't wear some kind of glasses that are fairly trustworthy, you ought to have more than one. Because 2 is 1 and 1 is none, and so a box is just right, right? But here's the deal. Tools magnify us. They give our brains new problems and opportunities. They give our bodies the opportunity to accomplish new jobs. They provide an interface between the work and the hand, and an inexpensive tool that works perfectly and lasts a long time. It's pretty much the best of all possible worlds when it comes to tools. So obviously we've done a lot of videos about tools. We've done my top 10 favorite tools. We've done the 5 tools you should throw away. We've done videos on my favorite tool hacks or modifications. And I can't help it. I can't help it. And I get together with a group of guys twice a month in the Essential Craftsman Academy who can't help it either. And they come with great ideas and we have a good conversation. You might check that out. It's first and third Thursdays, Zoom link, Zoom meeting, sharing what we've done and what we need to find out, and maybe somebody there knows, and somebody there almost always knows. So if that's interesting, go to the website, check out the link to the Essential Craftsman Academy. I think you would like it. But in the meantime, as we work our way through life, finding and using and becoming acquainted with and sharing and lending and being paid to use tools, I've realized that there is little that is more satisfying than a relatively inexpensive tool for a relatively common job that you can do well, and the satisfaction that comes from picking it up, and in the back of your mind, you know, this didn't cost me much, but boy, does it make good work possible. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.